as I did this week, Ludwig van Beethoven's, obviously one of the greatest composers of all time. He died in 1827 at the age of 56 of a multitude of health problems. I didn't know that he was an incredibly heavy drinker. So he had liver issues, he had dropsy, rheumatism, jaundice, breathing problems, and was basically bedridden, as well as the deafness thing going on. But he was basically bedridden by the end, and his final words were, "Applaud, friends, the comedy is over." And then he died. So I went into his energy just to take a quick look and see what was going on there. And when I found him, he was drifting along a very narrow cylindrical tunnel that was as wide as he could stretch. So it was like an X shape going down, and his fingertips were touching the walls and his toes were touching the walls. And even though he turned over and over as he went like a windmill, he kept his toes and his fingernails just scraping the walls of this metaphorical tunnel. And he was drifting very happily. There was obviously something about being relieved of all his health problems that made him blissfully happy. And yet, he was keeping control of the environment around him, doing it under his own rules, basically. But he couldn't do it for the whole way, because at one point the tunnel got narrower. There was a kind of rim and he had to pull in his arms, and he didn't want to. He got stuck on the rim. But the magnetic nature of this current that pulls you forward won't allow you to dictate terms. Under duress, he pulled in his arms and went forward. The next stretch of tunnel contained large swellings that he knocked against as he went. And I thought, oh, this is the usual thing. Another one who needs his fastidiousness knocked out of him, his control impulses, his ego reduced down to size. But it wasn't like that, because I realized as he went down this tunnel, knocking against these bruises, that he was holding his breath. There's no air, obviously, you don't breathe at this stage, but he was holding his breath. This was a trust issue. He didn't trust the process. He thought he was bigger than the process, that he was the one who set the rules and devised the playbook. But you can only go so far before you have to breathe out. And because of this knocking against these bruises, he finally went, oh, and found he could breathe. And the moment he realized that in earthly life we are a mortal shell with a spiritual core, but in death we are just the spiritual core moving forward, and we shed the mortal shell. Once he realized that and saw that duality, he became instantly able to rise and go into the light. There's a book by Maria Popova called Figuring. And in it she writes, "I will die. You will die. The atoms that huddled for a cosmic blink around the shadow of a self will return to the seas that made us. What will survive of us are shoreless seeds and stardust." And that's what Beethoven realized once he was willing to breathe out. That as great as he was in life, as prolific as he was, as revered as he was by many, his life was still a cosmic blink. Over in an instant. And he was back to being stardust. And he went into the light and was gone.